Hey guys, it's Jude. As you know, I'm in my first couple of weeks of using the Samsung S21 Ultra, which I named my phone of the year for 2021 last week, so if you want to see that video and the reasons why, click here. But because of that, I just wanted this week's video to be a rundown of the 5 traits about this phone that have kind of shocked me the most. It's the traits that I don't think have been emphasised enough or even mentioned in most of the other content I've seen made about this phone. Number 1 I want to talk about is a positive, and it's just how genuinely fun it is to use all the different lenses on this phone. The first thing you notice about this phone is the massive camera bump and the genuinely massive lenses that it is home to. A small aside that I wanted to add as like a little point that I noticed that I don't think is necessarily worth its own mega point is just how big these lenses are. They're about the same size as the iPhone 13's lenses, so if you're familiar with flagships from the last year or so, you probably won't be shocked by their size, but if you're coming from a couple of years ago, they will be big to you. They were to me. Pictures of this phone don't do justice to how big and beady this phone's beautiful eyes are. What we're looking at when we're looking at this phone's lenses is the 3x zoom, the 10x zoom, the main camera, and the ultra wide. The last one is actually an autofocus sensor that doesn't take its own pictures. It just helps the others do their job. But like, this isn't a shock. We know the specs of this camera. Everyone's speaking about them. Everyone knows about them. What I wanted to draw attention to is the zoom. Okay, hello from Editor Jude. So basically when I first tried to film this, I made literally no sense explaining this point, so I'm going to give it another go now. My point is basically, I just had no idea how much I was going to enjoy using the zoom functions and how much it was going to change how I take photos day to day. So I've taken this little man on walks a couple of times now, and every single time I've taken the phone out, I found myself using the 3x and 10x lenses more than I've been using even the main one, and I think it's just a real testament to how great they are. Like, it's obviously a preference thing on like how you like your photos to look and stuff, but I've just found it such a cool and fun tool for framing. And I think what is really the surprise here for me is the quality. I don't think the 10x lens is a gimmick. I think the quality on both the 3x and the 10x lens is good enough that I just never have to worry when I'm taking all these photos that they're gonna look crap, because they genuinely just look good. And I really just didn't expect how much having these sort of framing options and these different lenses would change how I take photos day to day. Just having the 10x zoom alone really makes this phone worth it in terms of how it is differentiated for other competitors, because it's just so useful. I'm using it so much and I just really didn't expect that I would be. Anyway, I'll let you get back to the main video and I'll get back to editing it. I've even been enjoying using these zoom cameras indoors for the occasional cheeky cat pic, but that brings us on to point number 2. This phone makes decisions for you about what lens you want to use, and I don't always appreciate that. Sure, I definitely trust that it knows what will take the best picture given the lighting situation at the time, and I do know that the 10x, for example, is just going to be performing badly in low light, but even so, I want to be able to make the decision for myself whether I want to take that photo. Even if it's going to be noise city, it's going to look like a splash of mud. I want to be able to use the full scope and full capability of the camera system I have in my hand, and I don't want that functionality taken away from me when I try and use the 10x, and it just refuses to snap to it. It just zooms in digitally from one of the other lenses. Like, I did know that this was a thing going into this camera system, but I just didn't realize how often it would refuse to use the different lenses. It's honestly just kind of frustrating at times. If I have the camera in my hand, I want to be able to use it when and where I want. Number 3. Now this is kind of a big one, and it did cause me a bit of panic on the first day of having this phone, but since then it hasn't really caused me much of an issue at all. Before I go into too much detail though, could you spare me a like? And if you want any more S21 Ultra content, give me a subscribe because it'll certainly come your way. Back to point number 3, and that is that this phone overheats, and when it does, it throttles performance. It's only happened to me I think twice. The first time was when setting this phone up, and the second was when installing an update. So I think what really pushes it into that level of overheating is when installing lots of things at once, which obviously is a hard task and I don't blame it, but because my first impression of this phone was just instantly overheating and throttling its performance, I did panic a little. Like, I ran benchmarks when I first got it, and they were almost half of what they should have been. Like, I shat myself. Since then though, the phone's had no issues. I've gamed on it for a few consecutive creative hours. I took it out for a big long walk with lots of photos being taken and had no issues there. So I don't think day to day that performance is going to be an issue. It's only ever ran in these situations just slightly warm. But despite that, I still think it's worth talking about a bit. I especially think it's worth mentioning just for anyone who's getting it in the January sales and when turning it on they get hit with that panic like I was, because the first thing this did was thermally throttle itself. I'm just going to reassure you all that in that situation what you need to do is just put it to one side, come back to it in a few hours, then try and gauge what performance level it's working at. There's a lot less to worry about than what you might think in those initial first impressions. Now for point number 4, and it's less about the phone itself and more about one of its star accessories. Yup, it's going to be my hot take on the S Pen. Now this is the first time I've ever used an S Pen device, and I have to say, I'm not really blown away. I have enjoyed the pin to always on display note-taking capabilities, literally being able to just take notes without ever even turning the screen on. It's pretty novel to just be able to scribble down a text to someone instead of typing it out keyboard style. And as someone who likes dabbling in digital art, I have enjoyed basically having a portable graphics tablet in my pocket. And the inbuilt pen up software that it has been fun to use, and it has its own little cute community thing going on, so I've been doing a little bit of colouring pages and whatnot, and yeah, it's been fun. But has the S Pen really transformed the S21 from phone to productivity powerhouse? No. For me, as someone who's learnt how to use my phone for productivity the old-fashioned stylusless way, it doesn't really add much. It feels like a fun, novel extra rather than an essential, fundamental, practical addition. Point number 5. It's the little things that make this phone stand out. So I'm coming to this phone basically off the back of reviewing the Redmi Note 10 Pro, which if you want to see me talk about, you can see me talk about here. So that is a phone with a very different price point and a very different sort of target market in mind. However, it was a great phone and it could do pretty much anything I made the poor guy do, including game for hours on end with only really minor issues. I did kind of begin to wonder, how much would the £600 to £800 difference in price really translate to tangible differences in day-to-day usage? And the answer is, luckily, it does. I can see it, I can notice it, I can feel it. Do I notice any major differences in how it cuts through a few hours of Call of Duty? No, but I do notice how slick and deep the colours are on the slightly curved display. And I notice how clear and loud the speakers sound when I'm using them. I can feel the matte glass back and aluminium frame in my hand, and all these small things, they add up. Whether it's the super reliable fingerprint sensor, the battery I've gotten over 7 hours out of, the extra crispiness of the 1440 display, it just amps up everything that other phones can do, and it just adds to a sense of luxury. Sure, with this RAM and chipset, it'll be running smoothly for a few extra years, and I won't need to worry about it, and that's great. And of course, this camera system is just a cut above what you're getting in the budget and mid-range tiers. But a lot of what it does you can find in cheaper phones. That being said, I challenge you to find one that can do anything quite as well or quite as sleekly. Anyway, that's essentially my first impressions in 5 points that you might not have heard other people discuss. What do you guys think? Did any of this actually surprise you? If you have any experience with this phone or have just done your own research, let me know what you think and if you think there's anything that isn't spoken about enough. As always guys, have a lovely day, and I'll link my S21 Ultra playlist in the description so you can get more content about it there. And if you do want any more content just specially handpicked for you, let me know. I'll add it to the playlist or I'll make it for you, because I have this phone and I'm going to have it for a while, so any questions you have, comment and I'll get back to you as quick as this phone can open an app. Maybe not quite that quick. Anyway, see you. Happy New Year again.